Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. What up, y'all? This Tone Talks in the building. Appreciate y'all tuning in this Friday. We're gonna have a great discussion today. We doing that End of Black Celebrity Part 2. I told you I was doing that. First one, 66,000 views. Thank you to everybody who has watched that. People watching it's an hour long. People done watch like 40 minutes of it on average. I'm saying to y'all, this might be a series, but let's just start off with a part 2. It's going to be interesting tonight because we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Dash Radio, Dash Talk app. Have any issues with the sound, just flip over to the Dash Talk app. Not going to be playing around with the mics and everything. I hope y'all ready because I got a special guest tonight. I got Yvette Carnell. Yvette, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, you ready for this discussion?
Oh, I'm ready.
So, the End of Black Celebrity is an extension of my Decadent Veil discussion where black celebrity has largely been a cover over black community. But we starting to look at them individually. The last one I looked at Jay-Z and Puff Daddy and a few other people. But we had some issues this week that kind of made me come back around. We got Floyd and 50 fighting on Instagram and Twitter. We got R. Kelly with a 19-minute song admitting to being illiterate and broke. We got Whitney Houston. Condolences to her family, but we got Whitney Houston in a documentary. Whitney, I believe Yvette went and checked it out on theaters. I saw clips of it. And we're going to talk about Whitney, what she meant and everything else. Yvette, what you think about this whole End of Black Celebrity, just before I get into the questions?
I mean, it's funny because you called it in the sense of everybody's imploding. And I don't think we realize that everybody's imploding at the same time. And so really what you have is black celebrities, since they don't have it, they're just eating at each other. And it's like they're revealing the truth because they can't lie anymore. So what you heard with that R. Kelly song was just him telling you the truth about his life as he sees it. He's telling you that his life is garbage.
Yeah, I agree. You seeing a lot of things inside of this thing where black celebrity as a whole is going through struggles. It's trying to understand itself. It's trying to reconfigure itself. It's trying to put itself against white celebrity and understand why we ain't got enough. Why we don't have enough and not deal with blackness. Y'all know I do this by questions. So I'm going to do this by questions tonight. Again, Tone Talks, Dash Radio, press the Dash Talk app. Having any issues with the sound, just go over to the Dash Talk app. It's easy. Oh, number 1. Does the Twitter feud of 50 Cent and Mayweather show that black celebrity is melting down? Number 2. Is R. Kelly's ego-driven song, I Admit, of being broke, a larger statement about the state of black celebrity wealth? We're going to go through some of the lyrics. Number 3, what does it mean that both Floyd and R. Kelly cannot read? It's an accusation by 50 that Floyd is illiterate. We saw on the Breakfast Club, he struggled. And you have R. Kelly directly admitting that he can't read. What does it mean that they can't read in modern America? And what does it say about black America? They are still adored despite it. Number 4, Whitney Houston's documentary exposed struggles of black celebrity and wealth once achieved. This struggle was detailed in a piece on The Undefeated. It was a powerful article about Whitney and Michael Jackson and what they meant to black people. And we're going to go through that. So I just want to get off to the top. We're going to start off with the first question. Does the Twitter feud of 50 Cent and Mayweather show that black celebrity is melting down? You can always call in. 310-986-6610 is the new number here in Studio B at Dash Radio, Dash Talk X. You can catch this on the YouTube streaming live. Join the chat because they in there. And I just want to start off by coming to Yvette, and we're going to talk about this Twitter feud between these grown men. But before we talk about it, we got to frame both of them. You can't have this discussion without really having people understand the relevance of both men. I've heard far too many people say that these men are irrelevant while watching what these irrelevant men do. First of all, Floyd Mayweather it's not even arguable. He's one of the greatest of all time in terms of boxing. He just is. Now, outside of boxing, you can have your feelings. I don't much like him with the money, but it's I watched the Conor McGregor Floyd fight at a movie theater. I've never watched a boxing match at a movie theater, and it was fun. So I'm here I first recognize that Floyd is very talented at boxing. On the other side, you have 50 Cent. Whether you like him or not, it was a Diamond album. I believe he was the last Diamond. I don't think Jay-Z has ever sold that number of records. That's a context. And so you can't literally say he's not talented or he's not relevant. In addition, I shared it with you before. I just want to give a caveat that I optioned the Rick Ross story to Randall Emmett Furla, who does Power. And I found out a lot of things. But 50 is instrumental in Power. It's not just no face thing where 50 is just the face of maybe just a name in terms of producer. No, this dude is really producing that show, and you got to respect that he was able to get that done. But putting all that aside, these is two grown men acting like children. I don't understand how we can't see that this is a problem and this is a statement about like where we at as a race and what we need to do to change to go forward. What you think about the whole feud, Yvette?
Well, I think it was very interesting what they revealed about each other. And I want to say this, like, I believe it. I believe everything those two men said about each other. I believe that 50 Cent don't have the money that he's perpetrating and he has, because you and I have, we saw, if you go read the paperwork for the bankruptcy, it's clear that he doesn't get the money from Power, like that he presents in terms of that, right? So, and that was part of what Mayweather said. He said, you live in an apartment. And you don't live in that mansion. The upkeep was too expensive. Then part of what 50 Cent said about Mayweather was and before somebody says, well, why are you paying attention? I got to, because that's what y'all paying attention to. And then he said about him, he said, you were on this feed when your friend just murdered suicide. And so what you really, if you look at it, what you really have is two people who know each other well, who had a period of time where they were up in each other's faces, they were friends, who were telling that this other person is a horrible person. So they're both kind of revealing themselves as human beings as being these immoral or amoral people, but I would say immoral people. And I think you have to just stop seeing them as what you described, right? They're not irrelevant. Floyd Mayweather's a tactician in the ring, an athlete, but you have to put that aside and be like, why would I want any kind of relationship or to be around any of these people? Why would I want to be around black celebrity if this is what the inside of black celebrity looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I've started off by sharing this article. 50 Cent and Floyd Mayweather's beef gets worse in new round of Instagram disses. In it, they say the lengthy and probably multi-layered beef between 50 Cent and Mayweather resumes. Yesterday, which was just about 2 months after the last exchange verbal jab, so this is something that's ongoing, Pretty Boy Floyd delivered an epic open letter diss to 50. Curtis, confidential informant Jackson, this is some of the language. You're mad because your oldest son Marquise's mother doesn't want to be with you. And Mayweather just went on. He said, your son, your own flesh and blood, don't want nothing to do with you. You haven't had a hit song on radio, talked about herpes, talked about him being broke. It was just a lot there. And 50 responded by saying, I must have hurt your feelings, champ. You had someone write a book talking about Mayweather's illiteracy and how he couldn't have typed that in 50's view. And it was just like this childish banter back and forth. And I start to see this thing, and you see so much when you unpack it, because you start to ask the question, what happens when a black person gets bread? Well, what we think of is that it's going to make our lives better. We'll be able to have homes and take care of family and be patriarchs. But what you're seeing, based on if Floyd is accurate, it leads you not to have a relationship with your own child in some cases. How can a man that tours all the time build a relationship with his child? It's possible, but is it probable? Is that what the goal of wealth is supposed to be? How can a man that tours all the time have the space and time you need to develop a mature relationship with your child, let alone if that man didn't have a relationship with his father? So he got to do double the work. It's not just natural. Then you look on Floyd's side and you start dealing with that literacy. You start dealing with what's the point of getting all that money, showing us the pictures of the money and being in the water, and you can't read? If the accusation is true, it shows everything about other parts of his life. Because if you can't read, it's like not being able to see. You can't consume enough information to know what's going on in this society without being able to read. Now, you can disagree, but that's just what I see. Can't read no articles. It's all secondhand information from like TV. The best stuff is in books and articles. Yvette, I'll just come into you. What do you think about the actual language of what we saw in some of the Instagram and Twitter exchanges?
Here's the thing. I think well, 50 Cent doesn't take responsibility. Like, and this is what I say in terms of we had a discussion about this, and he'll say like, well, one of the things people love to talk about in terms of black wealth is you want to build legacy. Well, building legacy is not just having one son and throwing that son away and then saying, I'm going to make another one because you can. Legacy is like, how do you build one son to help build the other son, and then the first son, second son, third son, if I have a daughter, how am I going to build each one of these children? See, and the thing is, he'll say, well, the woman, my baby mama messed her up, so we have no relationship. And he abdicates the fact that he chose the mama, right? You chose the mama, but you don't want any responsibility in the person that you chose and why you chose that person. You just want to say she ruined your son, and you just want to I'm not even going to make an effort to be back in there. It's too much. So we refuse to see all of the deficiencies in black celebrity and how that handicaps any kind of politics that we would ever want these people to do. Not only are they class enemies, they're rich. They want to cut taxes too, but they don't have the wiring to do the stuff. This is not Harry Belafonte, right? And even in terms of what we do about, people will say, well, Floyd knows numbers. And he does. He does know business. He's done a lot of stuff in terms of business. But if we want to do in terms of how he navigated his boxing and his contract, there was a great article about that about 2-3 years ago. But if you want to navigate and do next level stuff where you people always say, why don't people transition and do black packs or whatever, or more of that kind of thing. Well, even if you wanted to try to do that, now you gotta transition from accounting and knowing numbers to knowing politics. And you gotta know how to read to do that.
Come on, man. And let's go back and we can't help but evaluate the 50 and Floyd relationship by wondering if it was all based on being like bad people. When I say that, I mean, you had them standing around showing money and stacking money. You never see Jeff Bezos, and I'm not doing this to commend Jeff Bezos, but just saying, like, there's a certain level of wealth where you just don't show the money. It's just no point in it. And so, like, you have them stacking money and then showing it in a duffel bag. It really reeks of a ode to the dope gang. But you're not selling dope. The reason why dope people had to have money is because they couldn't put it in the bank. You can put it in the bank. It don't make no sense. And so you got this money team that came out of that. But then now you have Floyd saying 50 is bankrupt and talking about the bankruptcy. So many people say, they love to say, well, Donald Trump went back. We're talking about personal bankruptcy. We're talking about a real bankruptcy where 50, there's a great article, it's titled, Here's How 50 Cent Went Broke. In it, they talk about how 50's life started. And again, I'm going to put these links in the actual probably description. And it says, eyebrows were raised. How could a man whose wealth was estimated by the Washington Post at $500 million now be out of money? Blame it on living large and brazenly and reckless. The bankruptcy filing comes on the heels of a court decision ordering him to pay $7 million to a woman whose sex tape he posted online without her consent. With 50, there's always some drama. It goes on to explain that, he sold 25 million copies of In the Club, but this was all built out of his own doing. It was almost like you all you had to do after you had your success was sit back and chill, but you can't. So you just went out and destroyed what you created. There was no reason to do that tape. And so we look on the other side with Floyd, and we had articles come out that he hadn't paid his taxes before the McGregor fight. In this article, IRS lien shows Floyd Mayweather owes $22 million on 2015 taxes. I don't want people to come in here and tell me, well, he took care of it, or, that's not a big deal, because it is a big deal. It either shows a disorganization or a lack of wealth, because it never should really happen. The IRS says it's still waiting for its cut from Floyd Mayweather Jr. from his 9-figure payday against Manny Pacquiao. This is some 3 years, I believe, after the Pacquiao fight. The undefeated boxer, nicknamed Money, owes $22 million in taxes from 2015, according to a notice of a federal tax lien filed by the IRS. The notice shows that the balance was unpaid as of March 6, 2015. I'm looking at this whole thing, and it's just indicative of what I say. I believe that this has all been a perpetrated fraud on Black America. I believe Black America largely doesn't have much wealth. I wrote a piece in Your Web. If you do the math, just Bill Gates is probably worth more than the bottom half of Black folks. Mother Jones did an article. They said the top 100 white families are worth more than all of Black America combined. That's including Floyd and 50. So this whole thing is capital basically trying to keep us calm through the false idea that we all have access. Because without money, you can't do nothing in America. And I'm looking and I'm just wondering, how can a guy that can't read in Floyd even know that? How does he even know his role in this? Again, Dash Radio, Dash Talk app, 310-986-6610. We have a new number. Hopefully we get some calls, because, when they switch the numbers up, people get confused. But we going to keep it rolling. Yvette, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I think as a community we have to take some responsibility here, right? And people will be like, well, what do you mean we have? This is two grown men. What is the American American DOS community? How are we responsible for this? How are we responsible for these men? Well, now you need him. You need Mayweather to show that money. You needed 50 Cent to be during the bankruptcy, to be coming out on Instagram, putting all these pictures of himself with fake money and making you think he still had money. Because that's how you assess people. That's how we assess people as a community, is through wealth. So we need to see it. And we just kind of look at it and imagine ourselves having it. And we don't need to see people working on projects. Bill Gates doesn't have to do that, because his community doesn't demand that. That's not some kind of, that doesn't make him any more authentic. They like to see, like, oh, he's moving industries. Look at what he's doing. Look at what they bought. Him and Apple, back when him and Apple, when him and Steve Jobs was going, before Steve Jobs passed and all that stuff. People, that's what they need to see. So we have this thing of, well, we want to see this kind of gaudy, kind of ridiculous affluence, this showing of opulence, which is really sort of childish. But we're responsible for that.
I agree. I think that a lot of this comes out of the dope game and hip hop. It's just the mutation of mass incarceration. It's no value system. So like when somebody illiterate, you still let them speak on Hillary Clinton or on Donald Trump. It's like, you illiterate. Just box, man. And that's not saying that a boxer can't speak on that, because Muhammad Ali did. But you can't be illiterate and speak on that. There's a difference there. I want to make sure that I'm saying that. We don't know how to classify and give people, like, say, like Dark Hamilton, shout out to him, just named chair of a department for Ohio State University. He did the report with me and Darity out of Duke. Shout out to him, named that today. But I don't understand how you put him on the same level as Floyd when it comes to talking about politics, when you wouldn't do that in the ring. And somebody would say, I don't do that. You do. You do. Because we've allowed that society to do that to black folks. Entertainers get to speak on stuff they don't know about. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking at Floyd and 50, and I'm wondering where this goes from here. I can't help but say it doesn't go to a good place. I hope these men get their act together, because, you have to wonder how much of this is 50 Cent. Like, meaning, if 50 Cent turned a new leaf and decided to talk about, like, politics and like black power and black, like, advancement, would people tune in? Is this what's required to keep up his following? If so, this is an indictment on all of us. I feel like as we move forward, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to ask yourself, your wife, your husband, your kids, what are we about in this house? What we going to be about going forward? All this stacking of money, I mean, it's funny, because even dope boys like Freeway said Freeway Rick said he don't never want to see money again. Money it's so weird. It's so weird. Isn't it weird the way that he stacked that money, Yvette?
Yeah, it's like a kid. You ever seen a kid stack up their dolls?
Legos.
And then take a picture beside them and like, take a picture of me with all my G.I. Joe men.
Yeah, they got a picture of 50 like with the cards and it look like Legos. That's really what it's kind of. And then he got another one where he got sandwich and he put 2 pieces of bread, put the money between it. It's like kids, but they not kids. What's the trip is these people are not in their 20s, they're in their 40s. They're in their 40s, and this is an indictment on Black America refuses to age out. You know, we're stuck in 93. You know, I use the example all the time that like Smokey Robinson wasn't cool once he became 40. It was just his time was up. This Instagram and Twitter and everything is sticking people in time where people from the 90s is all we got. Black celebrity is too old for this. How long you gonna keep the wave cap under the hat, Fit? And for Floyd, you know, you got to read, bruh. You can't be a grown man and have that much access to wealth and not be able to read. And I would say even Rick learned to read in prison. Come on. And so, like, I look, and I want to move to the second question. Again, 310-986-6610 if you want. Oh, there we go. Let's get a caller up in here. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Sunset.
So what's your opinion on this topic?
And I'm from Maryland, sorry. My opinion on the topic is that I just think that it's crazy how people have a fantasy of what they want their money to look like. That whole Protestant work ethic and that you're grown into what you were meant to be.
You can't say it no better. I think, but I also think what's happening is black people running from that slavery and that Jim Crow. Because white people got money and they not running around like this. I'm not saying they don't have a contingency that overflosses money because they had a whole thing on Instagram about it. But I think what's happening for us is exaggerated. It's almost like if we project wealth, we are wealthy. When the group is largely made up of working poor, I did the chart. I showed y'all the bottom half of Black America really ain't worth more than $1 combined, like or something like that. It's really low because it's just the way it's designed. I said this week. Everybody keep talking about generational wealth or life insurance. You can't say that if 1 in 2 people that in your family don't have health insurance. People that don't have health insurance got to worry about immediate things, not generational wealth. You ain't got no health insurance, or your mama ain't got no health insurance, and you talking about generational wealth. All that ends up happening is she gets real sick, and the little money that you save, you're going to have to use to help her. That's just the way this works. They got it designed where they're going to take it back. And that doesn't mean that you don't try, but you got to be aware that the first step is she got to get health care. I don't know how you get it done.
Are you going to trust your experience, or are you going to trust what you believe or what they project for you to believe? That's kind of the part of the problem.
Part of my problem with the wealth data is like I think one of the things is people have never seen somebody so aggressive with this data, and then also they don't understand that I'm not just talking like most of the professors, they never met nobody or they never sat and really engaged like a black wealthy person. And so like for me, what I've run into is like I done really sat down and shared chicken wings with Dre. I done really like late night had 2 hours conversations with Byron about wealth and politics. And you know, Byron bought the Weather Channel for $300 million. That's among the top 2 or 3 richest black people in America, hands down, whether you know it or not. And so, like, what happens is I'm telling you that the reality of what you think about wealth is likely wrong, and you're mad at me, but it's not just coming from, like, just reading, like, studies. And then you go further, and it's like I done written a study now that includes this celebrity piece that has never been talked about academically. At least in what I've seen. I've never seen anybody really talking about this. And I believe it's one of the fundamental like issues with wealth inequality being seen for what it is. Because if it wasn't for black celebrity, we would be able to see that black people don't have money. Black celebrity, you look at the NBA, that's the only imagery of like black young people, young men having money at this point. The NBA and maybe the NFL, they don't really make as much. There's no rap anymore like that, like talking about it. All those men are in their 40s. And so it becomes very difficult when these things come out, like R. Kelly, which we'll get into right now. And it just proves me right. And I'm not trying to say I told you so. I'm just saying, like, I knew it already. You know, R. Kelly comes out and says, and so the question is R. Kelly's ego-driven song, I Admit, comes out with a song, I Admit, it's 19 minutes long. He admitted of being broke, and he admitted being illiterate. Just to share some of the words, Yvette listened to the whole thing. I got through the first 10 minutes. I did 10 minutes. I'm just being honest with y'all. I dropped out of school, I admit. I can't spell for shit. I couldn't read the teleprompter at the Grammys. These are the words of the song. Go listen to it for yourself. I ain't seen my kids in years. Where do we see that before? So think about this. Just like Floyd, R. Kelly has problems with literacy. Just like 50, R. Kelly has problems with his children. What's the point of money if you're going to have these kind of problems? I did that 12 play, continuing with the words, so I deserve fair play. I signed my publishing away. I'm a broke-ass legend. Let me say that again. I'm a broke-ass legend. I stay on tour to pay my rent. So, you know, he went on to say many more things about his core character, having sex with his girlfriend's friend and best friend in the back of a car and all kind of things, and then mixing that in with his own moral stance of him being an okay person. It was just a lot of ego, a lot of conflict. Yvette, he just wanted to get on. There was other R. Kellys, and you got a choice. You either sign this or move to the side. He could have been just like Aaron Hall. Aaron Hall came and went, but he stuck around. We have to ask ourselves, how much of R. Kelly comes as a result of his willingness to sign those papers, to be illiterate? Is that what required for black folks? Now the conflict, the other side of this is Floyd. Despite being illiterate, Floyd built this industry empire of boxing. But the thing is, he's not a singer. It's a very different like whole setup. You don't need Universal Records or Sony Records or whatever it is to project you out there. Now, I look at this thing and I start to see we got a lot of questions that got to be answered about this whole thing. How we going to move forward? How we going to view literacy? You had another accusation by R. Kelly, and it's going to come up again because we're going to talk about Whitney in a second, of abuse. We're looking at R. Kelly with these women. Me and Yvette did a show over in Atlanta when I visited, and we talked about R. Kelly with these women and these girls. Well, if it ties to an abuse, and understand this was abuse by women, if I'm accurate, and I'll let Yvette chime in. Just like Whitney Houston's abuse was alleged to be by women, if I'm accurate. You wonder, are we prepared to look at R. Kelly as a victim as likely as we are with Whitney Houston? And that doesn't give any excuse for what he does that's wrong. But it definitely frames it as a larger communal failure. Yvette, can you speak to the abuse?
Yeah, I think. Well, for all of you, for those who don't know, I'm a huge Whitney Houston fan. So I saw Whitney, and her like aunt, like Dee Dee was her name or something. She kind of had kind of a hard face, but Dee Dee was her name, and I think that was her name. And she allegedly, her brother said so, and a good friend of and her assistant said that she had revealed to her that this woman had abused her at a young age. They said her mother wasn't around a lot because she was touring, and the woman abused her and the brother. And with R. Kelly, is he said he was abused by a woman in his life as well. Now, see, the thing about abuse is it doesn't excuse anything, but it explains a lot.
Yes.
Right? When you look at it in that context, in terms of like, sometimes, you hear people talk about when you come of age and whatever, and those kinds of experiences and how they warp you and how you never kind of get over them, and they lead to all kinds of addictions, drug addictions, sex addictions, all different sorts of things. And you wonder, like, are we able to see, and R. Kelly being a black male, I don't think we're able to see it. But even with Whitney, I don't think black people are really, and this goes to black respectability. We're always like ready to point the finger at other black people and say, and not even see something else out of it. It had to be something you did right. I would have done things differently if I was in your position. And you don't realize it, like, there's so much. Like, how can we even say these people had good lives? Like, when you look at the backstory of what happened.
Yeah, you look at R. Kelly and we start talking about him saying he's broke. He's not just trying to curry favor. There's a great article that came out in February. R. Kelly evicted from a North Fulton homes. Owes $30,000, court document says. If R. Kelly wants to keep stepping in the name of love in North Fulton County, he'll have to find a new home. Filings with the magistrate court of Fulton County from February 13 show that the Grammy-winning R&B singer has been evicted from 2 homes he was renting in Johns Creek. The documents show that R. Kelly owes SB Property Management more than $31,000 in past due rent. And, you know, one of the things that's interesting is, like, this kind of goes with the 50 bankruptcy. It's like we don't understand that once you get to the courts, most of these people, they telling you what it is. 50 came out and said that he rents everything and that, you know, he was just showing y'all, like, fake jewelry and all kind of stuff. And everybody's like, oh, he just lying to the court. You believe what you believe. If you need that fantasy to exist for you to keep moving forward, I get it. But I'm telling you now that we got a real problem with wealth. And black celebrity is on his last leg. And if you need them to scroll through at night to get you through the workday, your workday gonna get real hard in the coming years. Because, you know, you start seeing that R. Kelly, the guy who, you know, so many people in Chicago ran around talking about they've been to his house once and he got waterfalls. What does that matter? What does it matter that he has a waterfall or a peacock or whatever he got? If at the end of the day, he broke. I mean, it's the trippiest thing because I believe that we've created this ideal of a black America that never happened. And part of the reason that it never happened is because black America started following black celebrity. You know, when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Floyd Mayweather and R. Kelly's illiteracy. Please use the super chat. Please use the super chat on YouTube. Join the dialogue. The call-in is 310-986-6610. I know it changed. Please, Dash Radio, Dash Talk X, call in. We'll get this discussion going. Yeah, Tone Talks up in here. 310-986-6610 is the call-in. This is Dash Radio, Dash Talk X. You can also join the dialogue. We in the box having this discussion. Please use the super chat. Shout out to the person that just donated a dub. Let's keep this dialogue going. You know, I appreciate when Yvette falls through from Breaking Brown. We trying to have this discussion. We going to be at the Angela Project in September 14th, I believe, in Louisville with Jesse Jackson. And we pushing for that American DOS, American Descendants of Slaves. You know, African American as a term is kind of dated in both of our view. And we going to push forward and try to get this thing, you know, kind of get some energy behind it because that's the first step for reparations. But let's get back to this. You know, we start looking at this thing and we ask the question, what does it mean that both Floyd and R. Kelly cannot read in modern America? What does it say about black America? They are still adored despite it. You know, you got R. Kelly admitting himself. He admitted that he's illiterate. He couldn't read at the Grammys on the teleprompter. Some people, because I believe as a result partially of mass incarceration, normalizing things, will say it don't matter they have money. Well, R. Kelly don't have money, and it does matter. You can't not read. You can't not read and then be showing me pictures at the Turks and Caicos like you ain't got something else to be doing right now. It's one of the core like skills you need to be a functional adult. And I think that part of the reason that we see the immaturity, because, you know, 50 can read and he's still immature, is that you're not accessing the things that are supposed to come with that elite wealth. Yvette, what do you think about the literacy element?
Well, I think it just all goes together. Like, I don't understand on some level like how we elevate these people. Like, you're elevating somebody who can't read. Like, in terms of and then if that person says I don't really get into politics, you know, it's not my thing. I don't really get into that. I just do my stuff. You're like, yeah, me too. I don't really get into politics either. You know, he can get that money. All you gotta do is get your money. And you don't understand that he doesn't know enough to be having that conversation. And so when I tell you he doesn't know enough to be having that conversation, then you want to come back at me and say, well, Yvette, he has more money than you. So who are you to say? No, money is not knowledge. Money, and in the black community, money is not even translated into anything. So I can have all the knowledge in the world, and somebody who doesn't know anything about anything can come out and have more money. There is no, we talk about plugs and outlets. We have a lot of black people who know a lot but haven't had anywhere to plug that into. So you can't look at him because of his physicality, no matter how wonderful it is, and say that because he has money, he must know more about politics and community building than me. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Yvette, we got a caller. Let's bring this caller in. Line starting to light up. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You got to turn your background down.
Oh, okay. Give me a second here.
What's your opinion on this? I love when the ladies call in. Your name, where you calling from, and your opinion?
Oh, yes. Okay, well, my name is Gail. I'm calling from Philadelphia. Long-time listener of you and Yvette. Now, I have a 22-year-old daughter. She's going to be 22 in a couple days, and she lives in Rhode Island, which is not that far from Philly. And, I always want to talk to her so that she's in the now about this stuff. And, she was just like, we were just saying, it's crazy. Like, you got people in their 40s fighting. Like, she's just a kid, and she's like, they're on social media fighting like some kids or something. Like, they need to be doing something. Like, they could be out doing something, community uplift or some other things. Why, like...
But isn't that part of what comes out of being illiterate? We asked Floyd to be a version of Ali, but if you watch young Ali talk, dude he was on point. Like, I watched when he was first coming, like, young, and he just knew so much. How much can you know if you're illiterate today, let alone what Floyd knew 20 years ago? And that's not about an excuse. You also got to look at Floyd's background. It's broken, and all kind of weird stuff went on, supposedly involving drugs and everything alike in terms of the family. And this isn't about an excuse. This is just about, like, we now need Floyd. We supported Floyd as black people. We really didn't really care whether a little dude fought, because little man boxing is not like big man boxing. But then we thought that Floyd could transition, but he can't because he's not literate. And what we got to ask ourselves is, why do we support him despite that without demanding, hey, we going to keep supporting you, but we need you to learn to read, brother? What do you think?
Because we are the only group, like I said, and my daughter's just a kid. Like, why are our celebrities our political advocates?
Come on.
Like, that's not what they should really be doing. Nobody else has that. Like, they can contribute and do things financially. I'm not saying they can't have a political opinion, but, like, why are you, like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like you and your vet are always saying it like you don't know enough. And then, like you said, if you're illiterate, you can't even go, let me go look at what Tone Talks put up. Let me go try and research this real quick, while I'm washing the baby or fixing dinner. That's what I do. Let me go look up this stuff. Like, what? They're exactly right. You can't even do that. They're supposed to have all this leisure time because they're famous, but like you said, if you're illiterate, you're not even able to do that.
Shout out to Philly. Let me say this. Shout out to Philly. Me and Yvette will be in Philly, I think Monday or Tuesday. I think that's the 6th and the 7th. We're going to be speaking at the Progressive Baptist Conference. The Progressive Baptists are the group who backed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to be presenting on black wealth, trying to get all of those mega pastors aware of the limitations of black wealth. We're going to be there. Philly, we'll be there in a week.
Can I heard, where would I look to get tickets, and is that something I could bring children to, yes or no? Because I want to come.
You can email me at cwcsports@hotmail.com or Yvette at editor@breakingbrown.com, and we'll definitely get back to you. cwcsports@hotmail.com. But caller,
okay,
thank you so much for calling in, and I always appreciate it. Shout out to Philly.
Sure, I love you guys. Keep doing what y'all doing, and
thank you.
Spread the knowledge. I don't know, maybe it'll soak into some people's heads like a sponge. I don't know.
Thank you. Yvette, we got to get to this last question. I know you a mega fan of Whitney. People don't know who Whitney is.
Don't say nothing bad about Whitney. I'm going to have to fight you.
Oh, man. I ain't going to say nothing bad. I think one of the things that I want people to understand, because you can't appreciate, like, black celebrity if you're born after a certain point, I believe. If you born after, like 88, you really missed it. Like, when you became older, even like, let's just say 93, 94, if that's you, like, black celebrity was huge because of what happened with Whitney and Michael Jackson. I mean, don't get me wrong, we had Motown and we had the run of the Temptations and the like. But when Michael and Whitney hit the stage, we talking diamond albums. We talking black people can sell like white people to other groups. Black people can sell like white people to white people. We said, you know, you had Whitney setting records. They said by some accounts she sold over 170 million records. Ain't nobody alive ain't nobody really selling like that today. There's no more. And we talking about whole CDs. There's no way to give you context. You couldn't burn a CD. We talking about like a $12 item in the 80s, which is just a lot of money. And people would go buy 1 and 2. You know, I look at this thing and we start to see Whitney Houston's documentary. Whitney came out. Yvette, can you speak on that documentary? Because then I'm going to talk about this, because I know you saw that at the theaters.
I mean, it was. I've seen. It wasn't the best documentary. I've seen a whole lot I didn't already know. But the thing that was kind of striking was in terms of just like white supremacy and this pulling of two directions, right? So white supremacy or the paymasters or white capital, as we like to call it, white capital is saying, you know, in order to cross over, you have to be this. And Whitney was really the best I've ever seen at playing that game. You know, being what white America needs to see in terms of you can be just coy enough, just social enough, but you can be an American girl, and you can sing the national anthem, you can do all of that stuff. But then you have people forget it was Reverend Al Sharpton who was like, "Don't go see Whitey Houston," and then she gets booed at Soul Train because she's doing the thing that makes her a crossover artist. You know, in terms of and to be supported by Clive Davis and all these people. So you can't, you're in this space where like nobody's happy with you, and that's what you're supposed to be doing, and that's what you have to be doing, and then you're on tour all the time, and so you begin to kind of self-destruct, and what you saw was like what it looks like I saw, and I've always seen, is Whitney self-destructed under the weight and the confusion of that.
Let me say this too. Let me say this too. I think that you can't look at Whitney without understanding. It's kind of like Serena without Venus. Like, wasn't no wealthy black people in the 80s. The idea of a million, it wasn't really millionaires like that were white, that were out front, because money was like spread more. That's what people, they don't understand timing. But like, there wasn't an idea of being a millionaire black person. So you come into this money, and the only people that can give you any advice are first white folks. But second of all, it's like you got to basically make other black people wealthy. You don't just feed into what they got going on already. There's a great article called "America Created Whitney Houston and Then It Destroyed Her." And it's on Undefeated, the ESPN cultural site. I did an article over there myself. Shout out to them. They do great work. Now, I want to share a section of that article, but I recommend you go read it, because this sister, I had to say it on my page, she put her foot in this. Her name is Soroya Nadia McDonald. Oh, she wrote this piece. She said, white supremacy demanded that black pop stars of their era erase all but the most cursory indicators of blackness. Fine, you can be America's sweetheart so long as you remain publicly apolitical and perform it as an anodyne. Brown-colored cipher, the kind that doesn't wear Black Panther berets at the Super Bowl. We are the world. We are the children. That's it. White supremacist capitalism created the situation that required Jackson and Houston to be brands instead of people. Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston. The wealth they amassed became the closest thing their families would ever get to anything resembling reparations. Powerful. And I believe that we saw that play out. We look at Whitney, and she was the beginning of this decadent veil. I use, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Oprah, and The Cosby Show. They were the binding of the decadent veil. Cast it over Black America while Black America suffered in large. And so now we know that, and we starting to look back, and so many of us framed our identity out of it. We framed our identity as raceless people with black consequences in our life. Let me say that again. We framed our identity as raceless people with black consequences, black financial consequences in our immediate life. And I think for a lot of us, that's really hard to deal with. And Whitney played that out herself. She was paying her daddy, I think, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was never enough. She was trying to hold up to the image of being this person that was raised around white folks when she wasn't nothing but nippy. And so now we start to see that Black America also is suffering as it works in the workplace and tries to emulate Whitney's crossover. If I speak correctly, they won't see me for who I am. If I speak correctly, I won't remember what makes me comfortable about who I am. And Black celebrity is suffering, and we are suffering, and we're going to have to all come to a real resolution about how we going to move forward, how we going to look at Black celebrity. Thank you for tuning in to Tone Talks.